How's it going, all you rebels out there? I hope you all are having an absolutely wonderful Saturday. So in this episode of Cracked Ice Gaming, you got your old Crank and Chewy, Stankin' Crank and Chewy, coming at you with a little bit of a deck tech video. So we've seen some community feedback around the smooth sector, if you want to call it. And people are kind of looking for those deck techs, kind of looking for what's going to be at the top of the meta, what's shaping or how's the meta shaping out, etc. Things like that. So Cracked Ice Gaming, we thought we'd hop on it and make y'all a deck tech. So this will be the first one of the series. We're hoping to do one kind of at least for like more of the competitive leaders to start with. And then we'll see how about doing one for every leader kind of way. Except for Chewbacca. Chewbacca's useless. Nobody likes him anyway. I'm kidding. It's a joke. So first one we got here is my personal deck that I'm running. However, I made a few adjustments to this one, whereas my personal deck, I don't have Avengers, I don't have all this, I don't have Super Laser Blast, I don't have all the Vigilances, etc. So, but this, if I were to run a deck, this would probably be the one that I would be running right now, um, built out fully. So it's called We Stand Amidst My Achievement, Mr. Achievement Hunter himself, Krennic, along paired with ECL. And this is what I think personally, aside from maybe an Iden matchup. However, I think Krennic's a little bit more favored in that matchup. This is what I think is kind of the best deck in the game currently, as the meta shapes out. So, starting off, round one, turn one. Basically, your whole turn one play is about getting a chonky boy out on the board, making an awkward trade for your opponent, essentially. So, we're playing things. Scout Bike Pursuer. Fabulous card, super undervalued. Just a great card in my opinion. He's got grit. He's a 1/4, so if they're playing like a Death Star Stormtrooper, Viper Probe Droid here, any other, Greedo, things like that, things of that nature, that hit for 3, doesn't trade into him, then he's coming back at you swinging for 5 with Krennic's +1, and grit. So I really like the card. I think it's a great card. I mean, you can even hit into, a Greedo if you wanted to, get your, 3 damage on you, swing at something for 5. Great card overall, especially if you throw an entrenched on that bad boy. I mean, he's just going to town. You're basically got a 4-cost unit that's just swinging for the fences. Inferno 4, great card. Lets you scry, as they call it. Trying to find, any of your big units, any of your super laser techs or resupplies if you don't draw them. Viper Probe Droid is great. 3/2, just kind of a standard run-of-the-mill card. Does let you look at your opponent's hand, which is kind of nice. See if they drew a super laser tech or a resupply, something like that. Sees the short trooper, great card. Especially after you get 6 resources on the board, he's swinging possibly for 5 if you get Krennic's +1, so on and so forth. Basically, you really want that Scout Bike Pursuer and you want that Inferno 4. Those are kind of your 2 main ones. If you get a Viper Pro Droid, great. Seasoned Short Trooper, great. But you're really looking for those 2. Turn 2, or well, I guess round 2, I guess. So death is a natural part of life. So this is kind of, one of your guys probably gonna die. Super laser tech, you could ECL him out. You don't have to. Death Trooper, obviously, if you get him, plop him on the board, get him rolling, make him a 4/3. Do 2 damage to your Scout Bike Pursuer, make that boy a 4/4. I mean, you know, just fabulous plays. Consortium Star Viper, great card. So this is where I like this card a lot more in this deck than I would in Iden deck. Krennic's ability is passive, so you're not really, losing initiative a lot. Compared to like Sabine, which isn't a passive, Vader isn't a passive, Iden's not a passive, Boba is a passive, so it's kind of a toss up on that one. Like Palpatine's not a passive, Thrawn's not a passive, whereas Krennic is. Krennic lets you keep that initiative round, restore 2, or they don't have to hit they don't hit your base. Evens out that way. Get a super laser tech, plop that bad boy on the board. No reason not to. Don't ECL it. I personally don't like ECLing the super laser tech out. With the Krennic deck. Just because you're gonna see a play that we're gonna do a little bit down the line here. Resupply, you get it, plop it down, great card. Lets you get Krennic out a turn earlier. Fantastic. Power of the Dark Side. This is kind of your last resort card. Like if you drew absolutely nothing else, play it. That's kind of it. Not a great card for this kind of turn. but not terrible either. Um, Also, if you pull an entrenched, this is one of the one times where I will say, if you pull an entrenched and you have a scout bike pursuer on the board, just play it on that bad boy. Hope they don't have a power of the dark side. Swing for the fences kind of way. And then you're losing a resource, but oh well. Turn three is what we're calling Tuesday. Tuesday, basically is like a read option, as you'd call it in football. So basically, you're kind of reading your opponent, looking at what they're gonna do, looking at the line that they're gonna play out, and then basically reacting off of that. Now, this is where it can be a little finicky. So for example, if they're playing Boba Fett, you're gonna want to hit that Steadfast Battalion ECL. Now, if you're playing against a Boba Fett, you want to keep the initiative. So, like for example, the matchup I was playing on, let's see, Wednesday. Yep, this past Wednesday at over at Comics and Games, I was playing against a Boba Fett deck. I went 2-1 against, well, 2-1, one out the round. But so one of the things that I was able to do was keep the initiative rolling. I didn't attack with my Scout Bike Pursuer one round. Took the initiative, was able to keep it over the course of the next two rounds, I guess technically. Plop out Krennic, he deploys Boba, Steadfast Battalion, Boba dies. I mean, game's over at that point. Boba dies, you don't get those 2 extra resources. You know, your abilities basically rendered useless. If you don't get a super laser tech, obviously takedown, great card. You can play any of the 2/2, 2+2 cards that you get. So like a Seasoned Stormtrooper, Viper Pro Droid, because you're playing a one card a turn. You're not playing off curve necessarily with this deck. If you have 5 and you don't have a Steadfast Battalion, Overwhelming Barrage is kind of what we're looking for here. I mean, shoot, play it on your Scout Bike Pursuer, do 8 damage. I mean, it's just crazy. But or you can play it on Krennic. Now this is where I like Krennic more than Iden. He comes out this turn, whereas Iden will come out on the next turn, unless they have a super laser tech or something to plop her out this turn. Krennic's restoring 2. Iden's maybe healed 2 at this point, maybe. Whereas Krennic's automatically getting you 2, more than likely. But then even going to the next turn, Krennic will also restore another 2, healing 4. Great stuff. So now turn 4 is what we're calling the 80-yard touchdown here. All right, you're back to, let's say you're backed up on your own 20, 5 seconds left in the game, throwing a bomb down the field. That's our Vigilance play. Vigilance, now, it's a 6 cost here, okay? Okay, folks, it's a 6 cost. Oh boy, does it do some work. Let me tell you. I mean, you get 3 of these suckers out there, 18 cards off the top of the deck. Good luck. I mean, heal 5 from a base, fantastic play. You probably have 5, well, depending on if you've attacked with Krennic or not, you might have 5 damage on your base if they're playing like a Sabine aggro deck. Boom, heal 5, defeat a unit with 3 or less health. Let's say they got a Sabine out there. Unit Sabine, kill her off, heal 5 from your base. I mean, fantastic play right there. Even, let's say they have Leader Sabine out, and you hit her with the Death Trooper, boom, Vigilance, bam, Sabine dead. Or you hit her with Krennic, play Vigilance, boom, Sabine gone. And then you're healing, 7 total. It's fantastic. Or play any kind of combination of the cards within the yellow square. Rectangle, I guess, actually. So, Inferno 4, Scout Bike Pursuer Entrenched. I mean, if you got a super laser tech. So this is the one scenario where if you got like a super laser tech and let's say a Death Star Stormtrooper, you could play those over the Vigilance just to kind of get you over the hump a little bit. To get to 9 resources or 8 resources faster than your opponent, especially in like an Iden deck where you kind of want to hit that Avenger quickly. So in turn 5, we're calling the sequel trilogy. Just like how the sequels kind of defeated Star Wars, this is kind of your defeat turn where you're going to be kind of defeating your opponent, essentially. So this deck doesn't include Vaders. If you have Vaders, great. We tried to keep it on a little bit of a lower cost side. As kind of more of like a balling on a budget deck kind of, if you have Vaders, great. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. Dooku, I'm going to be honest, you're probably going to be seeing a lot of Idens, I think, coming up, and even more a lot of Sabines as well. Dooku is fantastic for this. You plop a Dooku down, Iden dies. You plop a, a Dooku down on a Sabine, she almost dies. All you gotta do is do a damage to her first. That kind of way. I don't think he's as good as Vader, but I don't think he's a terrible option compared to Vader. Vader, obviously, arguably the best card in the game. Dooku, kind of right up there with him for 7 costs. He goes great in the mirror match against Iden, I guess you could call it. If you have 8 resources at this point, let's say you got off a super laser tech or something great, or a double super laser tech. I mean, or no, just one super laser tech. Yeah, wait, my math is wrong. Anyway, yeah, it'd be double super laser tech, I think, or super laser tech resupply. Plop down a reinforcement walker if you got it. I mean, heal 3 is just brutal. It swings for 6. It's got 9 health. Crazy card. You'll likely get an attack off with it too, so you're healing 6 damage from your base. Also, so like any combo of the 5+2, 3+4, 2+2+3, any of those combos, you'll probably have cards in your hand just because you're playing a lot of on curve stuff. So you should have a good stockpile of, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 cards, just kind of depending on what you played. So you can play all those out if you need to, and then go into the next round. So turn 6 is what we're called Alderaan. This basically, you're blowing them up, taking them all out. So this is where you're playing your Avengers. If you don't have Avenger, womp womp. Not the end of the world. Play a Reinforcement Walker. Play a Super Laser Blast. Either one of those works. Also, if you have Overwhelming Barrage and Takedown, that's not a bad combo, honestly. You could pretty much wipe their entire board with that, more than likely. Or at least take out their Avenger, do 3 to the Avenger, take down, to get to 8. You can play a Dooku in a small unit, so like if their Iden's still on the board, you haven't had a Dooku yet, kill I mean, if she's on the board, you're probably going to lose at this point, because, round 6. But you can play a Dooku in a small unit if they killed your Dooku, or if you don't have a Dooku out yet. Power of the Dark Side plus Vigilance, not a bad combo either if you got 9 resources. Kill a unit with Vigilance, Power of the Dark Side, the other one. Fantastic combo for you on this turn. But you're trying to play on curve as much as possible, keep cards in your hand, that kind of way. It's a lot about card advantage with this deck too, because keep it on that curve. So our sideboard here. So our sideboard's a little bit tailored towards the mirror-ish match, if you want to call it, against Iden. It's basically the same deck, more or less. They basically do the same thing. Personally, I think Krennic's a little better just because of his passive ability. It's just my opinion. So, first card we're going to look at, Regional Governor. Perfect for the mirror match. Say Super Laser Tech, say Resupply, or you could say like Power of the Dark Side, depending on the deck you're playing. Like there's a guy that plays at my store that runs runs Red Iden, and he basically plays all events. So I know on round 2, he's playing a Power of the Dark Side, plop a Regional Governor, Power of the Dark Side, he loses 3 resources, womp womp. Make an opening, not a bad card if you feel like, you're kind of getting blitzed down a little bit. It's just great in like an aggro matchup. If they're playing like a Death Star Stormtrooper or like a Tarkin speed deck, even a Sabine speed deck, plop this boy down, -2/-2, heal 2 from base. Not a bad card, not a phenomenal card though. Subblock guard is also for that aggro matchup. If you're feeling like you're getting blitzed down on your base, plop a cell guard down, subblock guard down, got Sentinel, Sabine can't trade into him, etc. Avengers just on the sideboard, again, for your mirror match, or your mirror-ish match. Even like a Boba deck, it's not bad against, but I only have 2 in the deck, because I don't really want to buy 3, and it's a little bit cheaper to not buy a 3rd. Relentless, this is kind of a substitute, I guess you could say, for the Avenger too, if you don't have them. But Relentless is also for that mirror matchup against Iden. You get this bad boy down, Iden, even against Krennic, also loses a lot of, the cards that he has in his deck because of their events. So, your takedowns, your overwhelming barrages, your Power of the Dark Sides, etc., etc. So now here's the actual cost breakdown so it's based on TCG Player. You could probably find them maybe cheaper on eBay or, on Facebook Marketplace, etc., or in the Discord, things like that. So they're abbreviated, so you kind of got to figure that out for yourself, but they're, basically just the first letter of the first word, etc. Um, so it comes out to $85.25. Honestly, it's not a bad deal, I don't think, for a fairly competitive deck. Your sideboard is going to cost you about $17.55. So a grand total of $102.82 for the entire deck. Not a bad deal in my opinion. I mean, if you think about it, a box of, unlimited costs you what, $95 ish, give or take. So you're basically getting a full deck for the price of a box. And you're getting what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 legendaries. Not a bad deal. Or what? Is it 9 legendaries? Yeah. No. 8 legendaries. My bad. Had to think about it for a second. So I mean, not a bad deal. Now, here's the fun part, all right? So me as a broke college student, I gotta find ways, I don't really got $102 to, go out and drop on a deck necessarily. However, I do have $16.62 to buy a deck. So what we're gonna do, and this is gonna be a series coming up on Cracked Dice Gaming, is we're basically gonna do a ball on a budget series where we're gonna go through and we're gonna build competitive decks that you can take to a local game store, go 2-1, maybe 3-0. Like I play this deck with only 2 vigilances. I don't play Super Laser Blast. I don't play Avengers, and I went 3-0 and 2-1 in my past 2 events. So I guess that kind of speaks for itself. So if you take out Avengers, take out Super Laser Blast, take out Vigilance, the deck is $16.62 based on TCG Player. I think that's pretty good in my opinion. I mean, you know, you get a deck for $16 and be competitive. I mean, now is it gonna win you, a regional or anything like that? Probably not. You'll probably need legendaries and stuff for that, but it'll win you, packs at your LGS. So there is that. Now your swappables. So basically, we took the 3 highest costing cards in the deck. So your Avenger, your Vigilance, and your Super Laser Blast. And basically, here's the things that I run in my personal deck that I would swap out for them. Just based on the cards I have. Now I do have 2 Vigilances, so take it with a grain of salt, I guess. So Avengers, I run Vanquishes. It kind of does the same thing. You could almost play 2 Vanquishes for the price of an Avenger. You know, basically has the same ability, just a little bit. Vanquish is a little bit better because you get to choose the unit, that kind of way. Vigilance, Cargo Juggernaut. This one's a little bit iffy. It kind of does the same thing. So it has Shielded, which Vigilance, you can choose to get a shield. And it also heals 4 from your base. Vigilance heals 5. So it's kind of a pseudo Vigilance kind of, if you want to call it that. And you also get a unit out instead of, having to just play an event. Super Laser Blast, we're gonna swap in an AT-AT Suppressor. Another cheap card. I've got like 7 of them. It's the only rare or uncommon I get now at this point, it seems like. But it kind of does the same thing. It doesn't exactly do the same thing. So, take these with a grain of salt. When played, exhaust all ground units, whereas Super Laser Blast defeats all units. So if they're heavy into space, this kind of sucks. But if, there's not a ton of space decks I don't see, at least at my local game store. Yours could be different from mine. Probably is different from mine, but like mine is heavy into ground right now, and so exhausting all ground units, not a bad play. And so those are our swappables. If you have any thoughts, let me know. And if you have any better recommendations, those are just kind of the ones that I'm currently running. And so here's the full deck again, just in case you're wondering. As well, Avengers, you could swap in Relentless for it. Not a bad trade out. I personally I think I run 2 Relentlesses in my deck, just for the Iden matchup, that kind of way. So, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you prefer Krennic, if you prefer Iden, or if you prefer a Boba Fett deck. For those of you who are wondering, the matchups that I have played against, so, first game, I played against a Sabine. I lost. But then again, I was missing more cards. I only had, let's see, I had went to 2 pre-releases, and that was pretty much all I had to build from. and then a starter deck. So I was missing a lot of the cards from it, so take that with a grain of salt, I guess. Oh, I was also missing ECL in that matchup. I traded the guy after for an ECL. So, there is that. But um so and then the next matchup I played against was up against a Boba. I won 2-0. And the next matchup was against a Vader, and I won 2-1. And then the next event I went to, which was on Wednesday, first game was actually against Iden Green. I went 2-0. Next game was against a Luke Yellow, went 2-0, and then last game was against a Boba, I think it was Boba Green, and it was 2-1. So I mean, fairly good record with it so far. Yeah, let us know what you think, and just remember, keep your blaster in your holster.